Hello, 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 Facebook family. How are you this evening? Welcome, welcome, welcome to Bridging Through Conversations, closing the gap to freedom, getting ready to get to the place that we need to be in 2023. Do you guys realize that we're getting ready to go into 2023? And we need to say a few things tonight to help you in your going into 2023 and church. You know how we're gonna do church this year. As you know, church has been different since the COVID, and we just want to see what we can do for you for 2023. But before we get started, I want to put out this disclaimer, okay? This platform discusses any and all information that is known to the public and that are opinions of the host and guests. We use sources that are unconventional and conventional. Bridging through conversations is in no way to be offensive to any persons, groups, or organizations. It creates open conversations needed to close gaps in topics others may not be willing to discuss. The information is alleged to others, but are our truths to having open conversations. Okay, guys? Hello, hello, hello. Yeah. Hey, guys. Okay, come on, Tasha. Hey guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're bringing you guys on into the 2023 with a conversation that some may not want to hear it and some may want to hear it, but I do believe that it's going to benefit you for us going to 2023 when it comes to our worshiping in the buildings. So again, tonight, guys, we're going to talk about top 3 reasons why you should not go to church. And let me explain this. We're not trying to say that you should not go to church. We're saying reasons why people use different reasons why they're going. We don't want you to just go to church for just those reasons. Okay. And we're going to have some scriptures to back up to. All right. So I'm gonna let Tasha take over this because Tasha put this thing out, and she got a little bit of backlash, but it's all right. It's all right to have conversations. Hey, Portia, it's all right to have conversations. That's the reason for this bridging through conversations because we don't want to have a conversation by ourselves. We want you guys to come in and input on this also and give us your opinion on how you feel about these reasons that we're putting out there why you should not go to church. Again, not telling you not to go to church. We're saying why you should not go to church. You shouldn't go just because of boom, 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 boom. And we're getting ready to tell you what those boom, boom, booms are. All right, Tasha.
I always do that. I always forget that it's on mute. Well, hey,
Yeah.
everybody. ATC knows. No, I do not know everything, but I love sharing with you what I do. I'm going to share with you what I have experienced personally. And yes, I asked from it. Some people are concerned about why I'm talking about this because I feel like that a person should have heart and pure reasonings for attending church. And these reasons, my top 3 that I've actually already went through personally in my life, and well, shucks, I shouldn't be going to church if I'm going to church for this or if I'm going to church for that because I don't. There was just like there was no logic about that. And like Spirit Love said, she has scriptures to back it up, and also we will explain each reason why I went through each reason and why I was stating that the church. And again, we are not telling people not to go to church because it is to go and to be when you are in the right frame of mind and your reasonings. So the first reason that I should not go to church is because if you're only going high or spiritual high, then you, if that's the only reason why you're going, and I'm gonna tell you why. Some, they get all hyped up, or they cannot have their weak canoe, and then it's like you're like, oh, if I just get to church, if I just get to church, which, but when you go to church and you go there with thing on your mind, and you know you're gonna get this spiritual high, you know you're gonna get an emotion, it's gonna last for a little while, and then after that emotion comes down off of you, then what is it that you have left? Gravitate to, or hold on to, or work on once that feeling is, like you're forgetting about why you are supposed to be there. And some people negate or just leave out the fact that they have to do some inside work within get what they need. And so that was one of the reasons, and people, they use the church to avoid the real work that they have to do within themselves. That's one of the reasons. Spirit Love, did you have a scripture for that, or you want me to keep going?
You keep going on that, but let me add this here. If you're going to church only to get a spiritual and emotional high, and let me just put some distinction on your spiritual high and emotional high. Now, everybody go to church for different reasons, okay? And I just want to put that out there, that we all go to church for different reasons, right? And I'm just going to tell you, when I was coming up, I've always been in church, and I know we always say this. I've always been in church, and I have not always been in church for the right reasons, right? And it wasn't a spiritual high, or emotional high for me. It was just out of, that I just didn't know anything else but to go to church. But my thing is that when you do go to church, you go there for a reason, right? You go there for an uplifting, but not just for that one time uplifting. This is an ongoing thing that when we go to church, it's like a build on. You're not gonna be it's just not gonna happen like boom, which, and you know what, let me back up on that. I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna happen with you, because again, we all have different things, but the word of God tells us that when we come into the knowledge, of knowing who Christ is, that to me, that's like a urge to want to keep going, to keep building on what you know, right, and what you want to begin to know. But this is a personal thing for you, not just a one-time high and and all that, for that. But this is a personal thing that continues to build on who we desire for God to be in our life. And who God is in my life may not be the same, but who God is in for Tasha's life. Again, everybody have different ways that we serve God. Some people don't. Some people don't go in for a spiritual. Some people just go in and just be there, right? But the thing is that don't just go just for that. Go there to get something. And when you come out, make sure that you have something that you're gonna be able to grab hold to, and it'll be with you to keep you for the rest of the week, and just keep you to I heard one pastor say, I want to give you something that's going to be able to keep you the next time we come together. And then when we come together again, I want to give you something else that's going to keep you. And that's what it is. I think Kurt Koss sang this song, that God kept me and he didn't let me go, right? And I believe that's the way it is with going to church, that God has given us something that's going to keep us until we can get refilled up again. It's like being filled up and being refilled up again. Okay, Tasha.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So the second reason is habit. If you're going out of formality, and if you're going out of tradition, going to church, I know that's another reason that I was going to church. Mom told me that I had to go to church. When I was growing up, I had no, I didn't have a job. I wasn't grown enough to make my own decisions. And when you growing up in the time that I grew up in, you did not question your ask questions. You did not say, well, why we got to do this, or why we got to do that, or what's the purpose of that. You just did it. And then another thing, my mom and well, my dad sided with my mom, but my mom was like, you living in my house, you going to church. Late in, after 12 midnight. And in some cases, you better not even time of night, because guess what? Her door gonna be locked. So wherever you, and is etched in your mind. If your mama's old school like mine, oh, you going to church, you getting up out of there. Don't stay at home while they go to church. That's not gonna happen. So another reason behind, when you going to church, I didn't know what my reason was for holding at the time, because I had life to the point where I understood my relationship with Christ, what was going on. I didn't know how he operated. So I was still going out of formality. I was still going out of tradition, because a Black family does. And let me just say this, a lot of Black families, I met a lot of African Americans that did not go to church. They was not raised. So, but for the most part, the majority of the people in my life growing up, they looked like me, and their foundation was believers, Christians. Either their pastor, either their uncle was a pastor, or their grandfather was a pastor, or deacon, or trustee, or whatever in that family. And there was something that you will hear up from a babe to a toddler, from a toddler to a young person, but you just didn't ask your parents those questions. You didn't ask your grandparents those questions. Sunday, or why we can't stay home? You just didn't ask those questions. And if you can, you best to have your clothes ready the night before. You're not ready, you're gonna hear it. I know I'm speaking for me, because that's what happened to me. But I didn't have a reason. I didn't have an answer for what was holding me there. Got to that point in my life yet. I was just going out of habit. I was just going out of formality, because that was just something that, tradition-wise, that was something that, formality-wise, that's something, because my father was a pastor. Yes, PK have gone rogue. So that's another. and then I was going out of habit, because I just got used to going. And in my mind, look, if I don't want to hear my mama's mouth, not so much my dad's mouth, but if I don't want to hear my mama's or my grandparents' mouth, then I'm going to church. Even as I got old, coming in the house, not so, if you know what I mean, from another place, and then you getting up early in the morning because you been Sunday school. That's what you best to be doing. So I've lived for the majority of my young adult life, because I didn't understand. You just didn't ask those questions when you were growing up, because of the I don't know to describe the demeanor or the behind the tone from your parents or your grandparents when they say, ain't no ifs, ands, buts about that. So it's the other reason. You got anything that you want to add?
I think that we're still living in the age of like tradition and of going to church like you tell your children that you're not gonna, if I leave out of this house, nobody's gonna be left in this house. You're gonna have to sit on the outside until I come back, home, right? But that's one thing that in my house, I never had a problem with my boys going to church. And even like when I was coming up, there never was a problem with us going to church, right? Because again, it was a tradition and it was instilled in us to go to church, right? And I think that it trickled down to, I know that it trickled down to my boys also, because when my oldest son went out to college, when we sent him back to Raleigh to go to college, when we called, to see if he's in church, right? So it's like instilled in them, but I'm still thinking in the back of my mind, is it just a traditional thing, like the same way it was when I was coming up? Because I think we discussed this when I was coming up. I don't care what I did the night before. That Sunday morning, I am in church. Regardless, I am in church. And on Wednesday nights, I was at Bible study. And I know that it was either out of tradition or either out of just a habit of just being there. And I want to say that it was more so of just a habit of just, that this is what I do. This is what I do every Sunday, right? I go to church regardless of, what, or I'm in Bible study regardless of what, regardless of where I was the night before or what I did. I'm gonna be in church that Sunday morning. And I think that now, since I'm older now, I go to for me. I go to church for a personal thing. For me, it's not out of tradition. Not because my mom said that I should be in church. It's not because my husband a pastor. Because my husband a pastor that I be in church. It's because it's a personal thing, and I think that that's the way that we should go into 2023, instead of having that old thing on our shoulder. I'm not saying that everybody's like that. That old thing of tradition on our shoulder is that we start thinking about right now, why do we go to church? What is the reason for us going, to this building, right? Because we're the church, so we could be just about anywhere because we're the church. But what's the reason why we go in this building to fellowship with one another? And the Hebrew do tells us to not to forsake, the saints of gathering together, in the church, and that's for emotional support, I believe, to be gathered together with each other. But what is your reason, for going? If it is out of tradition, I think that we need to do an evaluation of ourselves and find the it of why I am, in the church fellowshipping with the saints, listen to the preacher, which we could really, read at home for ourselves. But I think that we get different information when we go and get it from others. But we really need to realize why are we going to church and coming to this new thing in a new way, and a new way of thinking, a new way of thought when we go inside the building.
Agree. And I I thought about to the point where, by this time I'm already a teenage mother coming into my young adulthood, and saying that it was not a problem for you to go to church because it was instilled in you, and it wasn't go your sons to go to church because it was instilled in them. And as I got older and I started to learn more about my relationship with Christ and who God is and who He is to me, not because of what somebody can be to me, but I found out personally who He is to me. And I became a mother, it was just automatic that I did the same with children. And so my daughter, who's now 27 years old, is in still church. And when she went off to college, I would call her and I would text her, and I'm like, "Are you in church? Did you find a church home?" And she's like, "Yeah, Mom, to a Christian college." And so because it was like it's the information that I was being told at the time, the ministry that I was in, you know, it's good for your child to go to a Christian, you know, college and high school or what have you, you know, so they can always be surrounded by, you know, something good. And it's not to say that the world something good to offer. It's just that how it's being presented to you, to that individual, how they, the lesson that they learn from it. So, you know, now at this point in my life, I never thought that this would happen to me, but it just came thought of what you said, spirit love, like it'd be like to not go to church. I mean, yeah, I've missed church before, but when I felt like I had sinned, like, oh my God, I'm going to hell because I didn't go to church. And nobody should feel like that. It was like I was, you know, just had this feeling like this weight, like oh my God, it's the world is going to end. And so now I don't think like that. A lot of people, like you said, spirit love, you know, I've had some backlash and, you know, they ask me questions. And, you know, some people even say, you know, I wish I had the good that you have to not go to church. And I'm looking at them like, that's interesting. So now with me for the last since September the 25th, you know, on a Sunday morning, but on November the 9th to Bible study, and that was the last time I actually been inside the building. And I thought about it. So these reasons, that's where this came from. And so, you know, I at the time, like I said, I didn't know. I was just going because that's what was instilled in me to do. And so the third, if you're not ready to transform your life or change, you should not go to church, especially when somebody invites you and you don't want them to keep bugging you to go to church. I was one of those individuals where I invite them to come to my church, whether, you know, depending on the ministry I was in at the time. But I would invite people to come, and then I would get upset. I would get, even my feelings would get hurt because they did not come. But that was a good thing because they were ready to come. They were not ready to embark on that journey were not ready to embark on the journey to change their life. So why did I get mad, or why was my feelings hurt? Because they didn't come when I asked them to come. Good thing that they didn't come, because then they probably would have got into something they probably wasn't ready for. They probably didn't need to get exposed to at the moment. That could have set them back. I'll never know. And when you're not ready to go to church, you know, when you are not ready to go to church, when somebody asks you, then that person shouldn't be made feel guilty about turning you down, or telling you yes and knowing all. I've had that happen too. So that the explanation behind that reason, if you're not ready to transform or you're not ready to church because that reason, is because skepticism is a negative space. Have some skepticism that's going on in their mind. You never know what a person background is until they start sharing it with you. You never know what they could have. They may have grew up in a church where they were so, or it was pushed down their throat or shoved down their throat, waking moment. So apparently, when somebody asks them to go to church, some people may flat out tell you no in a fit of just for that moment, because they don't went back and they had a moment. Or some people don't come, you know. And I'm thinking of the movie For Colored Girls, where Whoopi Goldberg played, she was the mother of the, she just had put the oil on her head. You remember that scene of Spirit Love? But it's a scene in that.
I didn't see the Color Girls. I didn't
Oh
look
wow.
at that. It's too
But
much.
it was a lot, but it was good. It had a lot of great, what a mother, Whoopi Goldberg, and she was dressed in, she had a white, she had all these incense burning in her house and her apartment, and the Bible everywhere, and she had put it on her daughter's head. I mean, she just doused her in it, and she just individuals, her character was one of those individuals where she literally just down her daughter's throat about God and Christ and the relationship, and to her if she don't do this, and it was just a lot. And I'm like, and so she ran away. Older daughter was the same way because something happened to her, and she was like, where they just was estranged, and that oldest daughter wasn't trying to hear that. That's what all that, So the youngest daughter had that moment. So that goes through something like that, and if an individual like me that was raised in church, that was so inclined to go to church, did not ask questions growing up why they should go to church, but just went because it was instilled in them. Asking another individual to go to church, and then they say, yeah, but they don't come. It's because of something. You don't know that until they share it with you.
Yeah.
And they're skeptical about what could come. Mm-hmm. They could be afraid. You never know. And so, and I had that thought too. And I was just like, but you have to be open-minded when you step foot in the Spirit Love said we are the church. But you have to be open-minded to understand and possible can happen. Transformation will happen. The more you go, the more something can happen. The more but you have to discern what's good for you and for you in your life when you make that decision to decide to go to church. And don't go for those reasons. Go for the reasons that you want to go, because something is wooing you, something is pulling. You might not understand what that something is, but it'll be God pulling you to that place, and you just have to follow that.
Mm-hmm. Or I think just don't, when we invite someone to come to the worship building, is that don't always try to invite with expectation all the time, because we don't know, again, what that individual is going through, or what that individual have been through. So I think my thing is to invite, not to press upon that individual, but invite like you're inviting them to dinner. Okay, I'm inviting some individuals to dinner. I'm not going to force upon them to eat. I'm going to offer them to eat, right? But if they decide not to eat, it's not my my job to force feed them, right? So I feel that that's the same way with church. If I invite someone to church, I'm not going to try to force you to do anything. I want you to come with your own individuality within the worship place, right? Then if you come and you get something awesome, but if you come and you say that, this is just not for me, right? I mean, I can't say, well, you know what, you still need to come. You need to come to this church. You need to make sure that you find something out of this. And that's why I think that for this, going back to this traditional thing, this habit thing, is that we make people think that that it's a necessity. You got to be, when you come here, you have to get something, out of this, right? But it's not always the fact. And the reason for that, I believe, is that is so many negative things that's going on within the church, right? That a lot of people just come, you invite someone and they come and just see what's going to happen because they have so many, things going through their mind. So you can't force upon them. You got to let them see for themselves, right? And see what you can get out of this thing for yourself, because this is an individual thing. This is nothing that I can give you. Can nobody give you what you receive when you go to a worship place, right? Nobody can give you anything. This is something that you got to make up your mind, to want to do. And then that the change of formation, that's a process that can't nobody say when you should be changed. Nobody. You can't even say, come to this church. I want you to come to church with me, and I want you to come with a mind that your life is going to change, right? No, because then when you do that, that's going to be like you putting in my head, you trying to program me to say that, just because I come to your church that I got to change. No, I want you to come, but I want you to have your own. I want you to have your own individuality. I don't want nothing in your mind. I want you to come, and I want you to have your own thought on the word, because that's what's wrong with a lot of us. Because when we was coming up, we let the individuals impute things in us. But then when we started getting older and started reading and started living for ourselves, we started seeing stuff totally different. So these three reasons that
Yeah.
we have here, the emotional hype and the spiritual hype, we had those things, but then we had to realize, and we had to sit back, and we had to really start observing, what was going on around us, to see, okay, what's really going on? Because when I was going to church,
Hmm.
I would always sit and I would be thinking, when the elderly ladies in the corner would be, shouting and praising God, I'd be sitting there like, okay, God, what's going on? What's happening? And then when my family, and I think I've been the odd one all along in church. When my family, all of my daddy and my siblings got up to join the church, right? And everybody, they look back at me and say, you're not coming. And I'm thinking, hmm, I don't understand this. I don't really what's going on. So I'm not gonna get up and I'm not gonna join until I really know what this thing is about, right? And I guess that's what I'm saying when we invite individuals to church, right? We don't invite them to push our beliefs on them. We invite them for them to have their independence, to be able to decide what they want to do, right? So when it was time to be baptized, I sit in the front of the church and watch my family be baptized, because I'm thinking, why is everybody going down in the water and coming up and they're still the same person? And I was in the fourth grade then, right? And I'm thinking, do it supposed to be something behind this water thing, that they're doing, right? And if I would have fell suit into what was going on, it would have been like, okay, I'm just a robot just following in with what's going on. My thought process, and I'm putting this out this for everybody to have a mind of your own, to be able to evaluate on what you want out of this worship experience when you do go to church. Don't let anybody put into you what their beliefs, right? You go in with your mind wide open so that you can understand the whole process. And within that, and I didn't get baptized until I was 20 some years. I think I was 22, might have been 22 years old, when I really understood, what was going on, in the church. And I didn't even know the difference between God and Jesus until I was older, because I'm thinking, you're talking about two different people in this church, right? And I don't really understand, what's going on in this. And so when I was coming up in the church, I made sure that I didn't go in for a spiritual hype or emotional hype. I went in to observe and to really pay attention to what was going on in the church. I did go out of formality, because it was so instilled in me that I didn't know anything else but to go to the church every Sunday morning, hangover and all, just been, in church. And then the my change of the lifestyle, even though I've been in church all my lifestyle, and that's why I say that we shouldn't press upon people, because my life didn't change until I was adult. I was an adult. I was in my 20s when a transformation really came over my life, and I had a change in my life. So these reasons that we're bringing out to the people is for you to, to open your ears, open your heart, open your mind to do things that you're doing because you want to do them, not you doing them because somebody told you to do it. Somebody told you to go to church. Somebody said you got to be in church every Sunday. Somebody said you got to be in Bible study every Sunday. No, what's your personal relationship with God? You got to have a personal relationship with Him, because if you don't have that personal relationship, it's going to be out of formality, and then the next thing you know, it's going to be a let me see what's a good word for it. It's going to be a false. I'm getting ready to make up something, guys. It's going to be a false relationship, a false following, because you're not really thinking for yourself, and you're not really experiencing what you should be experiencing when you have a relationship, with God, and with your spirituality, and how you deal with certain things when it comes to God. So we have to make sure that this person, me, Tasha and I, we don't have the same. We don't. It's a totally different way I might, think about God, and the way I would do things when I would go into the sanctuary, when I go to the worship place. We probably think totally different. Whereas me and my sister, we have totally different feelings about, what you do when you go into, the worship place. My thing is, when I go somewhere, and maybe I might, in 2023, I'm going to try to flip that thing around a little bit, where I won't be so detailed and so more observant, instead of like more free willing it, because I don't want to fall into false what's that word, Tasha? False prophesizing and false spirituality, and stuff like that. I want to make sure that when I go into the house of worship, I'm going in for that true personal relationship, and not because my mama said, "Diane, you need to be in church every Sunday." Either my husband say, "You need to come, you need to be in church," or something like that. I don't want that. I don't want you to try to force me to go to church, and I don't, and nobody else should be forced to go to church. You should want to walk in there freely, and then have your mindset that you, for the reasons why you in there. And it's not a hype. It's not that when the organ started going and boom, 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 and the drums start beating, that automatically your body, your mind is saying, because this is happening, this is what I believe, this is what I've been taught, is that I got to get up and start shining. I got to get up, and I got to actually feel, I got to say something. I got to do this. No, you got to make sure that you're doing this because it's you. It's a personal thing that you have
Yeah.
developed with God. It had to be a personal. It had to be a person. Don't have to do nothing about music. I'm prime example. I'm okay. And my House of Prayer people might be on here. My family. My family is originally from the House of Prayer. Okay, now, and I think that a lot of people, like, if you go to the House of Prayer and they're preaching, a lot of times you just sit there and you listen. You just listening to what the word say. There's no emotion or anything like that. No amens, no raising your hand or anything like that. But when the music start going, then that's when the body start beginning to get a jerk in it, or begin your hand begin to be raised, and your voice begin to start expressing, how you feeling. And I always believe that it's the music, right? Because one time I went there, and I'm that's family. And this man, he was preaching his behind off. The word was flowing out of him, out of his mouth, out of his ears, his nose, his eyes. It was just flowing to the point that I just wanted to get up and shake his hand, because he was preaching, right? But there was no response. It was just me and my husband. We were just going up in that place because that man was preaching, right? But the only time that they respond is when the music started. And even when he said, don't play the music. Don't play the music. We're talking about the same thing about why you go to church, right? Reasons why you shouldn't go. He asked them not to start the music. He said, what I want you to do, I want you to go down deep inside of you. And I want you to get that personal thing to begin to build up in you, to know that God is the one that how I can't remember exactly how he said all of it. I'm just going to put my thing there. That God is the one that woke you up this morning. God is the one that started you on your way. God is the one that gave you the activity in your life. You just going, just going. And I just want you to feel that thing. And then just begin to get your praise on whichever way you feel that you want to praise God. Excuse me. You just begin to praise it. No music, because they were trying to do the music. No music. No music. I want you to do this thing without this music. I want you to do this thing because you feel this thing, this personal thing with him, right? Notice how that silence went? That's what happened. It was silent. But when that music started, boom, they were going. I ain't saying that. I'm telling you, I love the house of prayer music now. I was jumping too when the music came on. But I was also feeling what he was saying about, that personal thing that you have deep down inside of you. And it began to like roll up in you and just roll up and roll up to your throat. Then it began to come out of your mouth because you think of how good God has been to you, right? Those are it's an expression that nobody can feel but you. And that's what we're saying about reasons that you should go. But out of all of these other reasons, out of the heightenedness and out of the falseness of being in the worship place, we need to turn that thing around and begin to find the true reasons of going to church, the true reasons of worshiping, and and the true reasons of why you want your life to be transformed. Not because daddy and mama, but brothers, your friends invited you. This is a personal relationship that you have with God. I didn't mean to go all the way through there, but I just thought about all those things. It all just go in the whole thing. All right, Tasha.
Well, all of it does go together. So if you have, if what we say to you, please leave us a comment. Ask us a question. We will not overlook your comments or your questions or your statements or anything if this resonates with you, because this is happening. And a lot of people don't want to talk, they don't want to talk. They don't want to have a conversation about it, because every day, every week, it's happening. Somebody is going to church for the wrong reason somewhere. And there are people that are going for the right reasons somewhere. It all boils down to your personal relationship, your personal walk, your personal life. Love said, you got to have a mind of your own. Look, I am in my mid. I just began to start to have a mind of my own when it comes to church. What my family would say. Yes, I have some family members that are questioning not going to church. Yes, I've had people text me and send me messages like, you're all right in the church, because they're used to seeing you in church. They're used to seeing you, this charisma, or in the church we call it the anointing. Feel like, because that's not there anymore, or you're not coming to church anymore, that just because you're not coming to the building anymore to worship with other people, with other individuals, they feel like everything is just stopped. Like you're not praying no more, you're not worshiping no more, you're not praising God no more. You can worship God anywhere. It don't necessarily have to be such and such and such and such. It can be in your bedroom. It can be in your kitchen. It can be in your car. It can be at the gas station. It can be in everywhere. His spirit is everywhere. So if you're not having and you're not going by your own mind, you're going by because you were going along. You I was well. Let me tell you, I would get along because I didn't want to hear what my family would say, or I didn't want to hear gotten to know me personally would say to me or ask me questions. I didn't want to hear all of that, but now it don't bother me. That they have their thoughts. Some of them haven't said anything to me directly, but I'm sure they. Well, why Tasha stopped going to church? Why is she not doing this? Or why? That's because I'm on a I'm in a different place in my life, and I had to go to church just to go because I'm going out of habit. Or I'm gonna get that spiritual high when I get there. Everything is gonna be all right. To the church, and I'll be all right. And then I'm not, doing anything, but that's just something that I've experienced and I've gone through. And there were times where I was not ready. Years old, and my dad was doing a revival. Might have been Vacation Bible School, and all these children, all the children to be saved, to get to receive Christ in their life as their Lord and Savior. Up because I didn't want to be the only one not in the pews sitting down. That's why I went up. My mom and dad was so happy. Christ in my life, doing Vacation Bible School. Now they was so happy. Later on, as I got older, as I became a teenager, stuff began to happen. I'm like, God went right on out the window, y'all. Let me tell you. So guess what I was doing? Normality, out of tradition, out of habit, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to change because it was putting me to go to church. That's why. So, with that being said, I just believe that for yourself, you're not allowing other people to think for you. Things will go well for you in your life while you're on your journey.
Yeah, and we are on a journey, and I pray that someone listen to this and listen to it with an open mind. That again, I'm going to repeat this again. That we're not telling nobody not to go to church. Because, a matter of fact, I'll be in church full time 2023, and I didn't stop going to church. I went to church, but I'll be back in full time, and it's gonna be on still always still on my what I believe and stuff. So don't think that this live is about telling people not to go to church. It's like it's this live is about reevaluating why you go to church, and making sure that you go for the right reason, and it's not for a person. A lot of people go to church just because of their pastor. No, you go to church because you need to get a personal relationship built, with Christ for your life. Because even though you like the pastor, and you're not going in with a personal benefit, is no avail. You just go in and just look at the person and listen to what they're saying. But you go for a reason to begin to benefit your life, and begin to have a transformation in your life. And nobody can do it but you. People can talk and they can say whatever they want to say to you. It'll never happen until you make up your mind and you want to do this thing for yourself. People can always, they can shout at you, they can spit at you, can throw their hands on you, throw some oil and all that stuff. But until you get ready to make that change in your life, that's the only time that it's gonna happen. I don't care how many times people speak over your life until you make that decision to want to walk in the light, walk in the light, the really feel light. Come where the dew drops, the mercy shine bright. Until you get ready to do that, that's the only time that it's going to change. And even though you have been going to church all your life, and you can tell people that I have never experienced anything, why I've been in church. And that's because you might be going out of tradition. But when you begin to go to church for yourself, go into the worship place for yourself, then you're going to be able to experience something. And because of all of these things that we have gone through in 2018, 20 not well 2019, 2021, up to 22, and even before that time, it's time out now for just going and let somebody just speak to you and you're not getting anything out of it. Now it's time for you to actually start beginning to change your life and begin to get something out of what you're going to the worship place for, because we are into some trying times, and the word of God says that we're not fighting against flesh and blood. Even though people are saying these things and doing these horrible things in this world, it's not really the person. We're fighting against something that we can't even see, guys. And the only way that we're going to be able to conquer this spirit, this individual, the enemy that's floating around here, is that we got to get that personal relationship for ourselves. We can't live on mamas. We can't live on grandmas and grandpapas and sisters and brothers. We can't live on theirs. We got to live on our own. We got to make sure that we're built up and we're girded up with the armor, of God, and that He's the one that's leading and guiding and directing us in the way that we should be going in, and that we're doing it with our mindset, not somebody else's, because I can't read your mind. We ain't got mind readers around here. We got to make sure that we have our mind made up. We got to make sure that our heart is fixed. We got to make sure that our soul is anchored, that we got a firm foundation into where God would desire for us to be, and in a totally individual thing, not everything, head to toes, individual things. And we got to make sure that we have a firm foundation that we're standing on in these perilous times, because that's what we're in. We're in some crazy times. And we got to make sure that when we go to the worship place, that we're truly hearing the true word of God, and that when we leave out of that place, that we have truly gotten something for ourselves individually. 2023 should be a better year for us. I was reading a book by Roland, what's his name, Martin. He wrote this book about and I know I have different people that be listening to me, all races out here, but it's called White Fear. But the thing in there is not just for black for the black race or the Latino race. It's for everybody. And the main thing that I got out of there was that we're in a fight, that the only way we're going to be able to conquer, and conquer with as a group, as a whole, coming together, is that we got to make sure that our mind is made up and we're set for this fight. Because again, we are not fighting against something that we can see. We cannot see this thing. The only way that we're going to be able to defeat it is that, again, we got to come together. We got to make sure that God is truly leading and guiding us in doing this thing. And again, the only way that we're going to know that is that we must have that relationship with God individually, not with somebody else, individually, that we got to have this thing so we can be able to fight this enemy that's coming, against us as a whole. Black, white, purple, everybody. It's not just one race, it's everybody that we need to be able to fight. In 2023, we need to make sure that we have that on our mind, that we're preparing ourselves, for the battle that's been going on. The battle been going on for a while, right? But it seemed like they've been pushing back because we haven't been doing this thing in a personal way. So we need to now do it in a personal way and get rid of those reasons why the reasons that we shouldn't be going to church and start going for the reasons that we should be going. And that's for a personal relationship with God, so he could begin to reveal the things to us that he would desire for us to do individually on earth, and then together on earth, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to complete the body of Christ to be able to do what he would desire for us to do.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
this time, January 2023.
Yeah.
So, said, we appreciate y'all for being here with us, for leaving your comments and your questions or your statements. We thank you. We thank you. I'm so glad we started back this year. We've been going strong now for what, about a month? Been about a month?
Might be. Has it been 4?
Right before
Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's probably been a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we are back. And telling y'all, the first quarter, we got something for y'all. We got gifts. So just know, get ready.
Get ready.
Well, this is Tasha, aka TC Knows. No, I do not know everything. What I do know, that one, you should not go to church for emotional high. 2, formality, habit, or tradition. And 3, you should not go to church if you're not ready to transform. You should go to church for a personal relationship, and also for a desire. Then you need to go, because then that's God warning you to something better.
And that is so true. And this is Diane Spirit Love. And I love you guys, and there's nothing that you can do about it. And I pray that you live a safe life the rest of this week up until the new year and on, so we can bring the new year in fully intact, okay? And know again that we are here for the duration for Bridging Through Conversation. And we pray that you will be able to get something from what we are going to bring to you in 2023, which is, like Tasha said, is really going to be something good. So, guys, we pray for you and you pray for us as we try our best to keep ourselves safe to go into 2023 with a bang. Okay? Love you guys.